Hey guys, how's it going? So, today I am going to take a look at Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Now, if someone were to ask me to describe Sekiro with as few words as possible, then I would just immediately say that Sekiro is basically Dark Souls. It's almost exactly Dark Souls, except it is set in a different timeline and a different era and all of that. Because it is set in feudal Japan, so it's almost like another game that is also in the quote-unquote Dark Souls genre, and that game is Nioh. You might have heard of Nioh before. It's spelled Nioh. So, Sekiro is pretty much the same as Nioh, and Nioh, it just so happens to be, is also set in feudal Japan, and it is also a Dark Souls-like game. And what I mean by saying that it is a Dark Souls-like game is that it is a game where the emphasis is heavily placed on boss battles. So boss battles are really quite incredibly challenging, and you can really expect to die dozens and dozens of times in your playthrough of the game. Unless you are extremely skilled in the game, you can actually learn the orchestrated attacks of different bosses and get to a level where you can actually dodge each and every one of the boss's attacks, but there's really like 0.01% of the players of Dark Souls who can actually do that. So yeah, Sekiro is basically like Dark Souls, like Nioh, like Lords of the Fallen. That's another pretty good game in the Dark Souls genre. It's also like Surge. Surge is another game released in the Dark Souls genre, but that's like a futuristic setting where you actually get futuristic weapons and you fight futuristic enemies. Bloodborne is another game like that. So you get the general idea. Sekiro is like all of those games where the emphasis is heavily placed on boss battles, and even the normal enemies, quote unquote normal enemies that you encounter throughout the game can sometimes very easily kill you if you are not very careful. Now, right from the start, it should be noted that Sekiro is a $60 premium AAA game. Now, the question then is this game better than the rivals like Nioh and like Dark Souls and Surge and all of those other games? Because if they're asking $60, then this game should definitely at least be on the level, if not better, than those other games, because you can honestly pick up those other games for quite a bit cheaper than $60. Obviously, this is a brand new game, or at least released in this year, so you can definitely pick up the other games for cheaper. I'm pretty certain you can pick up Dark Souls for like $10 around about now, because it's a relatively old game. So the question is Sekiro better, or at least on the level of those other games? And to be completely honest with you, I would say that it is. It is a very beautiful game. It's not like mind-blowingly beautiful, but it does certainly look pretty, and the visuals in certain scenes can be very impressive and flashy and all of that. Especially the cutscenes. The cutscenes are basically double rendered, so they're rendered a few times over to make them look even more beautiful than the normal in-game gameplay. So the biggest critique and basically requirement that games of this type have and that they need to adhere to is the smoothness of the gameplay. How smooth are the controls and how smooth is the gameplay? Because if the gameplay is not smooth and you are struggling with the controls, or if you do a button press and that button press doesn't happen, then this type of game, like a Dark Souls game, is going to be incredibly frustrating and, to be honest, quite unfair, because everything in this game is about reaction time and your reactions, your skill as a player, and if you press a button, then the game better do that action. The action that you pressed better happen if you are going to get anywhere in the game. So the game has to run absolutely smoothly, and the timing of the animations have to be pretty much frame perfect, as they call it. And I have to say, the combat animations and the overall combat and flow of the game are pretty damn perfect. I really, after completing the game, haven't encountered any error or glitch or a bug or anything like that that affected my gameplay or that affected my combat in the game. Because if that did happen, then you would probably die in the battle, and you do not really want to die unnecessary in a game like this or in a game like Dark Souls, because there are penalties to dying. Now, while I'm talking about glitches and bugs and stuff like that, there are a few glitches and bugs that I have encountered in the game, but it really just more or less comes down to the AI in the game that isn't programmed 100% as what they should be. There are certain exploits in the game that you can use to screw with the game's AI, with their pathing, like where they walk, their movement, all of that kind of stuff. But to be honest, it can only be used in certain circumstances and not in all of the boss battles or anything like that at all. So to be honest, I'm pretty happy with the glitchiness and the bugginess of the game. There's very few glitches and bugs in the game, so I really can't fault the game for that. Now, when it comes to boss battles, the game has a stagger counter, and you can either just bash away at a boss and get his health down, and the bosses have multiple health bars. So some of them have only one health bar, some have two, some have three. So you have to basically kill the boss multiple times, and each time that you kill them, they unlock new abilities, or they enter a new phase of combat, and they will basically be more difficult in their later phases of their health bars. So the game does have a stagger counter, so you can either just hit and kill the boss like that, or you can stagger them and then basically kill them in one shot, or take away one entire health bar in one shot. It just really depends on your weapons, your character setup, and the abilities that you want to use, and your play style, really. Because in order to stagger a boss, your blocks have to be perfect. You have to have frame perfect blocks. So when your enemy attacks you, or when the boss attacks you, you have to block perfectly. And that is quite a bit more difficult than just hacking away at the boss's health bar. And in addition to staggering the boss in order to remove the entire health bar, you can also stealth attack a boss, certain bosses. You can basically stealth attack any enemy in the game, but some bosses can also be stealth attacked, even though not all of them, obviously. And if you stealth attack a boss or an enemy, you kill them in one hit, or with the bosses you remove an entire health bar with one hit, which can be quite advantageous to you because you basically start the fight with a pretty big advantage. And well, my closing thoughts on the game is that it's a pretty cool game. I'm not a huge fan of the Dark Souls genre, like Surge and Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Soulborne, any of those type games. I'm not really a huge fan of them. It's just not a genre that I really enjoy. But if you do enjoy those types of games, then this game will be right up your alley. You will absolutely love this game. Even though the $60 price tag is a little bit steep, but I expect that price to go down eventually, or perhaps you can get the game on a sale, and then I would absolutely say that the game is worth like probably $30 to $40. And depending on your skill and how many times you die, you can complete the game anywhere from 20 hours to 30 or 40 hours. And if you really suck at the game, then it's probably gonna take you longer than 40 hours, like upwards of 50 hours if you die a lot, because obviously if you die, you lose a bit of progress and you get sent back to the waypoint. So skillful players will be able to complete this game much quicker than players who are not so skilled with this type of game. So yeah, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of this game. I didn't really enjoy playing this game. It was more like a chore for me, to be completely honest with you, but I did complete the game and I didn't regret completing the game, even though I'm not really a huge fan of this type of game. But that's just my own bias. I would still recommend that you buy this game if you do enjoy the Dark Souls genre, because it's certainly a good game for the genre. And it can absolutely keep up with the top tier games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all of those games. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.